My name's Dan from Build to Explore. Are you sick of the back of your vehicle looking like this every time you're trying to go camping with your family? I am too. And in today's video, I'm going to make a drawer organizer system that you'll be able to follow along and get free plans in the description with a full list of things you might need at a hardware store or off Amazon to build it cost effectively and quickly before your next trip. When deciding to build your drawer system, there's a lot of things you need to think about. Some of the design requirements that I have are that this is relatively light, that it's removable, it looks decent, that it doesn't rattle, that it safely carries all the gear, and I don't have to worry about things flying around the vehicle. So what I like to do when I'm planning out these projects for organizers, I get all my gear together and I tape out the area of the organizer. So this box is going to represent the bottom area of my organizer, and that'll be the top. So by laying out all my equipment like this, I can see I have enough room here for vertical separators and room for my drawer slides. I have a good idea how tall my box needs to be, and I can see that all of these items can fit on the lower shelf. But I really encourage you, before you build your own organizer setup, to go through an exercise like this. Really ask yourself, is this the gear that I need? Is this the gear that I'm most likely going to be using? That way you don't end up with a nice organizer that doesn't meet your needs. For the van, I wanted full 48 inches that this comes out. And that is the reason that I went with these type of ball bearing slides. If you're dealing with a vehicle platform that has a tailgate, you may want to consider not using ball bearing slides and using some sort of like slippery plastic drawer system. Because what you have on a tailgate, when you pull the drawer out the whole way, the tailgate's out here. So the drawer system can actually rest on that tailgate. With a van, you don't have that. So if I want to pull the drawer out the whole way, I have to have these ball bearing slides in order to support the load. If I had a tailgate, I probably would go with the other system because a lot of times it's thinner, it's less cost, and I've seen some really great examples that it works well.
There's a lot of detail in the plans and the description on the hardware that I used for this project, so I'm not going to take a lot of time to show or describe it here. Everything needed can be purchased through my Amazon affiliate links and at your local hardware store. I wanted to make sure I had a solid design for my box, so I actually started a few months ago and I've been testing it out. To save time, I'll go over how I built the box and we'll focus the rest of the video on the harder details. The box consists of 4 main vertical members seen here. These components separate the box into its various compartments and distribute the load. 2 large panels of plywood make up the top and the bottom structure. In testing, I found that additional braces on the back of the box were needed. They're shown here. 2 dividers are also needed on the bottom of the box to hold the weight. Finally, a number of metal brackets are used to help tie it all together.
Tools required are going to be a circular saw, a drill, tape measure, some kind of straight edge. I am using one of these pocket hole kits from Craig. I just think it makes a little bit more professional finished job. I did not use that. I just used simple screws when I was putting this one together, and that's held up just fine for dozens of trips and thousands of miles in the car. So on those, we're just edge screwing, but wanted to try to do a little bit nicer job on the drawers, so I'm going with that today. Now, one of the first things to make sure you're doing when you get your box built is to make sure everything is square. I didn't always have this support positioned really well, and I'm going to be adding a second one during this to help keep it from bowing, but there is some bow in my box. You can see I have it clamped straight there, and you can see the bow. I can get my finger in here. So before I attempt to make any drawers today, we're going to pull the box back into square, so that way take the bow out of the lid, and we'll be doing the same thing on the bottom, and that should make everything laterally quite a bit more stiff, and we'll see how this works. Now, the length of screw that you need for the pocket screw changes depending on the thickness of the material. So if you're going to do this job, make sure you put these braces in the first time around. Definitely needed. Moment of truth. Take the clamps off. See if it's springing the things the wrong way. So that is a lot straighter than what we had. We're going to do the same thing along this bottom edge. So I have the opportunity to put the pocket screws on the inside so it won't be as visible, so we're going to do that this time. According to the chart, we're going to be using 1-inch long screws for all these pockets. And one good recommendation I heard was to use your drill on these and then turn the clutch way back so that way you don't over tighten them. So I measured, put a mark 19 inches from the inside to here. So an 18-inch table should slide in there real nice. And again, we're going to be using those 1-inch long screws that came with the pocket jig. Go ahead and put that metal bracket that I had back in this lower corner to just give it even more rigidity. Okay, so we're going to show you, I added these T-brackets here on the front side yet. Now I'm going to work on starting to mount my first 2 sets of slides. Warren, you want to mark this one? As I want a 1/2 inch gap underneath my drawer when I'm done. So I'm going to basically build it that, you know, there's the thickness of this plywood to keep it all separated when we're done. So you can see here, these are the holes we're going to be dealing with. I'm going to put some barrel nuts through those. So the binding bolts that we're trying to use are for a 6mm thread, and we need to drill the outside just ever so slightly. Like some of these it actually fits, like that one fits, this one's a little tight. So the ones that are a little tight we're going to drill with a 5/16 hole. That'll give it about 10th out clearance, I think. We want to be really careful with the metal chips. I'm going to sweep all these up because I don't want them to get into the rollers. I want to test to see if these will clear once the slide comes back. And it appears to clear really nicely on that one. So make sure when you get them in, you actually give them a try. There's access holes that line up with the other features, so that way you can assemble. That's good. There's going to be one more out here at the end. And that one's a little tight, so we're going to drill that one. While we're thinking about it, let's test our other barrel nuts or binding studs in here that'll go to the drawer. So these are M5 binding studs, and looks like they have a little bit more clearance on these. There's also access holes in this intermediate piece to install those. So this is actually the mechanism that will lock it out. Right, so here's the first lockout position. See that? That is now locked in place. And this, when this comes back in, that is going to depress that feature and let it move. Now, something I've noticed on the lockout slides, where this lockout mechanism crosses the hole, there's a hole directly below. You can see it through that right there. You can't have anything sticking above those. So on those particular holes, which is going to be this one next to the VBOR label and the next one up, for those we are going to have to use the provided flathead screw, which is also an M6. So just mean the binding post is going to come in from the other side. So on the front side here, I've made the slide flush with my front of my plywood, and I'm coming through this hole to put a clamp in. We're going to take that same 5/16 drill bit and start working our way, putting in the binding nuts. This next hole forward here that I drilled, this is one of the ones that is going to need to be zero clearance to clear the locking neck. So the hardware that comes with the slides is the zero clearance type. So for this position, the longer binding studs that I have in the directions They're ideal for here, but where you have to have the zero clearance, you're gonna wanna use these shorter ones. I believe 10 millimeters long versus 16. So the back two are the only ones gonna be able to get with that until I move the slide. So I'll meet you on the front side. I can undo this clamp. The front one, I believe, is gonna be able to handle one of the longer binding studs. So the long ones come in from the front. Line up the next hole and repeat. This one come in from the other side, but this one's going to get one of the blind assemblies. So with any luck, this should fully retract and lock. That step is definitely one that you got to think through and make sure you get the right hardware. If not, it can catch. If you're installing this into like a sheet metal box, the provided hardware would probably be fine. But the stuff that the slides come with is not long enough to work on 1/2-inch plywood from what I can tell. So I think these binding posts, they go by a couple names. I've heard them called sex bolts, binding posts, binding studs, whatever you call them. They seem to work well for this application. All right, so we're gonna do the same thing. On the outer one, I believe that everything will be the longer black studs, and I will catch up with you as soon as that is done. So my next step, I have both rails fully secured. These are the two 3-inch tall pieces that are gonna be the sides of our drawer. And now we need to just confirm our measurement here. I was anticipating this being 14.5, and that looks just about perfect. One of the really important things when you're building your box is to make sure that these two walls for your slides are parallel. So this is going to be the bottom of the drawer. Okay, so this might be overcomplicating it, but this is what I came up with for how to hold the drawer square while I can screw it together. So I clamped the 3-inch piece to the outside of my box here and left it stick up just enough that when the bottom of my drawer is sitting on top of the box, everything's nice and flush. That turned out really nice. So now I've got to figure out a way to hold it for the other side. There we're going to clamp the 2.5 to this. That'll give this a little lip to sit on. All right, let's see if I can remember the glue on this piece too. All right, so we did 6 pocket holes in here. Majorly misdrilled. What did I do? My box is bowed. When I put this in, I had the full length board under here, and what I discovered was that I had this really rattled around over here. So to figure out what was going on, I put my laser line level on here, and these weren't in the same plane. And what I found is that this piece of plywood, when I installed it, was bowed quite a bit. So you can see like that wood will not go in the middle there. But when I put just shorter blocks under each end, then I do not have as much of an issue. If you're a little bit more careful than I was when I built this originally, you could avoid that. Looks like it fits pretty good. I cut 4 little scraps of the 1/2-inch plywood. I put a piece under each corner. For these, we're gonna make it flush with the edge of the sheet metal there. And I'm drilling the second hole back. And remember, these are going to get the 5mm studs. So the way I have the hardware spec'd out for this, it bottoms out on itself, which I like because it allows a little bit of flexibility. Like if I'm too narrow, if this has a little bit of play, it allows things to give a little bit, but the body of the bolt is still able to hold everything nice and tight. Drill this side. So we pulled the drawer the whole way out, kept my spacers here. Everything still seems to be about the same height. So now we're going to go ahead and drill this rear corner. All right, check that out. I cut a piece of wood to make a drawer face, and I'm just going to hold it up here, make a mark where I think I'm going to need clearance for that. Come over here, and make my mark this way as well. Just come in here with the square. This is all going to get covered with carpet, so I'm not too worried about overrunning my lines. Okay, so you can use a handsaw to cut this out. I think in my case I'm going to use a jigsaw. And we're going to do the same thing for the other side. So these are going to get attached just like this once they're carpeted. I'm going to clean up the dust and then break out the carpet stuff. I want to wrap the carpet around the edges, or at least that's how I'm imagining it. So we're going to pull it this way until we have 2 inches of overhang. Yep. Looks like it's going to be just about perfect. We got all this extra back here to deal with now. I'm going to go again with that 2-inch overlap, try to cut this down. I'm not going to be carpeting the inside on mine. That might be something you want to do. For how I'm using it, this is going to be great. Just take that same cut the whole way across. Yeah. This is going to be your bed when we go camping now?
Yeah.
I'm going to take the remaining carpet and cut it right in here. I'm using a drill bit that's the same size as the hole in here just to mark the wood. I'm going to take this away. So if you're not doing drawer fronts, you would just be bolting that on. So I cut an extra 1/2-inch piece of plywood, the width of the drawer, and 3 inches tall, to space the door out to account for the thickness of the carpet. Actually going to run a screw in there to hold that. this up. Now these are just temporary. One other idea I had to make this even easier. We're going to draw on the door, so I know where to trim the carpet. Top side, and on the bottom.
Is that a staple?
Yep, it's a staple gun.
If I want to try.
Here, push down on that. Hard, all the way till it clicks. Good, good. All right, got this one all upholstered. I really like, those lines made it way easier. And the way I did this one is definitely the way I would recommend. You have to figure out how to safely restrain your gear and your box in the back of your vehicle. Whether it be from bouncing around or from someone opening the drawers with too much weight on, you don't want it to fail or tip at the worst time. What's going to work well for your vehicle is probably not the same as what's going to work for mine. So spend some time, plan this out ahead of time so that way there's no surprises. Let me take you on a quick walkthrough so you can get an idea of what kind of gear that we generally have. We have a 12x12 easy up that slides in this middle pocket. The rug sits on top of that, and then we have our 10x10 Alps mountaineering tent that goes on top of that. Things like hiking sticks and marshmallow sticks, that kind of thing, go in the middle. I have an 18-inch table that slides in and out of here. It can also act as a work surface. And then a lot of times on this side, I'll put folding camping chairs, so you can get a couple of them in there. On the sides, we stuff sleeping pads and sleeping bags down the side. On the top, a lot of times I'll do pillows, sheets, and bedding, that kind of stuff in here. Generally bringing a box for dry foods and then suitcases. You can see there's plenty of room up here to add to that if necessary. On the left side of the box, I'm set up for a IceCo 12-volt refrigerator on this side. I generally carry about 5 gallons of water, a little bit of storage here in the back for things like flashlights, lighters, things that I know I need for camping I want quick access to. On the right side of the build, generally this is stuff that I'm not accessing quite as often, but for tent camping with family and little kids, I've found that a Thetford cassette toilet is a must-have. This box has all the camp kitchen stuff in, everything we need to cook, clean, extra auxiliary camp lighting, all that good stuff. If you decide you actually want to try to tackle this project, I'd love to hear how it turned out, what you did different, because everybody's gear is different and no solution is going to be the same for everybody. If you got value from this video, I'd really appreciate it if you could subscribe. I'm trying to get to my first 1,000 subscribers. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I hope you get out there in the garage, build something cool, and then go see something amazing.